Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
When I'm talking about being your own advocate, I think it's trusting your gut instinct, even if a professional is maybe telling you something else. It's asking questions. It's taking that extra effort.
From Offscript Media, I am Matthew Zachary, and this is Out of Patience. On the show today, friend, colleague, fellow young adult cancer warrior, advocate, survivor, Rebecca Batterman. But let's not let that last label define her, because she's oh so much more. Rebecca's an innovation consultant. What does that mean? Well, stick around to find out, folks, but I can attest that she has one of the most acute minds. She makes you feel like the dumbest guy in the room sometimes, a good problem to have, and I've been inspired by her ever since we met. Never one to stop reinventing herself after her stints in branding, media, marketing. She has this crazy entrepreneurial spirit and an odd appreciation for 80s nostalgia as a non-Gen Xer. She's now, as of this taping, completing her Master of Laws degree in intellectual property and entertainment law. Slacker, I say. Rebecca is as authentic as it gets, and she could teach us a thing or two about how to roll with the punches. What's more, she's an advisor right here at Offscript Media, and I hope you'll be seeing more of her on the show as a recurring guest correspondent. Ladies and gentlemen, my conversation with Rebecca Batterman. So I pushed the button.
The button?
People are going to hear what we're talking about now.
They're listening.
This is the non-agended show. Just to let people know, I've had heads of state. I've had chief scientists. I've had celebrities. I've had none of those people, actually. I've had just interesting people on the show, of which you are, Rebecca Batterman, an interesting person.
Thank you.
But this is one of those unagended shows where I think it would be really interesting just to talk and see if the listeners actually want more shows like this, because you're a curious individual and I find you fascinating, which is why you are worthy of that chair.
Oh, thank you.
You know, the person before you in that chair was the head of neurosurgery at Lenox Hill. And we did kind of like, we washed it down. Don't worry, it's clean. Lots of lye. We threw lots of lye on it. It was soaked in a pool of Purell. You're in good shape.
See, I think you want me to respond. I'm not going to do it.
You're just not going to give
You're
me one.
You're baiting me. I'm not going to say anything about that.
Well, you are here in studio.
Thank you for all the frontline workers who have done everything to help.
Yes, we are socially distanced.
We are.
In our studio here in downtown New York, in case people start hating us on Twitter, which that's the place to hate. If you're going to hate on Twitter.
Yeah.
This has been your daily public service announcement.
Sponsored by
Twitter.
Great minds.
No, I'm this has been a long time coming, and just so the listener, Rebecca and I met under the worst of circumstances, which is that we had friends in common, but she happened to get cancer. And I happened to be in the same place as her at the same time, with us not knowing the other existed outside of you having heard my name through our mutual friend. And then you bum rush me and I didn't know why. And then you're like, I have cancer, help me out. So,
but tell everyone why.
Tell everyone why what?
You're assuming everyone who's listening knows why I would say, help me with cancer.
Because you had it. And
because you knew so much about it and were so well connected.
If you're listening to the show, by the way, hi everyone, I'm Matthew Zachary. I'm very Googleable and I had cancer at 20. Yeah, all that stuff. If you don't know who I am, good luck. Congratulations. Get to know who I am on this show. Exactly. But yeah, I was, not a lot of people get the chance to happen to know a random person who can help them when they're in crisis. And I was lucky. I had an uncle who knew to tell me what to do. And my co-founder, Andrew, knew me and I helped him with these ideas. Not everyone has like that greeter in the Welcome to Cancer store that you have to shop in now. I was privileged and humbled to be available to help in any way that I could. But you were in such a, I would say, an advantageous position versus the stories that I've heard. I want to talk about that because I see that as progress. And one of the things that I love to talk about is when things go right, because you fight for so long. Advocacy is to make things suck less for the next us. And in your situation, things sucked a whole lot less than they have done for other people that I've known in your situation. And it doesn't mean it didn't suck at all. It sucked plenty. But I one thing that my listeners know, what grinds my gears the most is fertility preservation. In cancer, it doesn't matter when you're 70 or when you're 4, but if you're in the age group where you would normally be wanting to consider family planning at some point in that 25 year range, wouldn't it be nice if when you were confronted with that you have cancer conversation, it's say, by the way, I noticed that you have ovaries that work. And by the way, what we're going to do to you to try to save your life might break your ovaries. What a novel idea. But you had a wonderful opportunity to be told that. And what was that like for you? Because my question, and there always was one, you were 34. Was motherhood even on your mind, let alone were you prepared to be, what? Freezing this to do what? I don't know where I'm going to be next week. What was that like for you?
Well, so what's interesting is actually it was something that I had been thinking about because a lot of my friends living in New York, and there are a lot of different startups and different doctors and who focus on this. And a lot of my friends were already freezing their eggs. Just as, well, why not? Let's just do this.
It's the trendy thing to do.
It's the trendy thing to do. If you're 34 in New York, you probably thought about it. And so I had already been thinking about it. And actually just a few months, like maybe 6 months before, I went to have a consultation and was just kind of like starting to get information about what this process would be. So it was part of my plan because I was already thinking about it and had inquired, like, what's the process? And so it actually worked out really well that it was the first step in my treatment plan was this thing I had been like, oh, well, I'll get around to it. So I got to cross that off my list.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're told you have cancer, it's shock enough. I can't imagine the first thought in your mind was, I won't be a mom.
No.
Was it odd and revelatory to be told this?
Well, I wasn't told that.
No. I don't mean, they didn't say you won't be a mom.
No, they didn't say that.
We should get your eggs harvested.
It was
Did you say,
a
what do you
proactive, mean? I hadn't thought about that piece of it because I think it all moved very quickly. I was diagnosed and then the following 1 week later, exactly almost to the day, I was in an appointment with my oncologist.
Godspeed, good luck, amazing to that. But to many of the listeners that'll be hearing this show, they're going to be like, if only that happened to me, but I'm so glad it's happening now more often. Yeah. That's the point I want to drive home. You and what you went through in the place you were at with the doctors you happen to have gave you that option that millions of women over the last 30 years have not had. So this is a sign of potentially things to come as an improvement to what we call guaranteeing right to parenthood.
Well, I hope that's the case. I don't know because I have only had my interaction. I have a really amazing team that would say something like that and would think about that. And unfortunately, I don't think everyone has the same caliber team. And so, that along with many other things that I learned along my journey is further support that you have to advocate for yourself. And that's just something that, I think we can't just rely on everything that's being told to us because sometimes things aren't being told. So what happens if your doctor doesn't mention that or it's not part of the treatment plan and then you miss your opportunity? What do you do?
So what does that mean to you, be your own advocate? Because you have sort of, I'll say, a pre-embedded moxie, a chutzpah that is baked into your general being. Not everyone has that. So they don't have the wherewithal perhaps to question a doctor or ask the questions because they don't think to know what they have no idea about. For you, is it really as easy as telling someone to be your own advocate? Or where do you think there's a self-starter course in Just Be Your Own Advocate 101? For anything, cancer, anything.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, I don't say that lightly thinking everyone just picks up and goes and has the same experience that I have, because I do think about things like that, and I'm not afraid to push back and ask questions. But I think maybe if the conversation gets wider and more people are told it's okay to be your own advocate, here are resources, and there's just a separate conversation around not just listen 100% to what you're told. I mean, I don't know if you were planning on talking about this, but just in terms of my diagnosis, my professional doctor, not my oncology team, but there were steps along the way, even to getting to the diagnosis, that I was told this is not something to worry about, and that I kind of pushed on it more, and thank God I did.
So you felt you were being dismissed at the beginning?
No, not dismissed. It just wasn't not that active. It's more, I wasn't saying something and being dismissed. It wasn't being dismissed. It was more, I wasn't being told. So I had my annual check, and I did a physical, and they were both the same week because I was doing this really amazing week where I did all the health stuff, and I was like, yay me.
All the health stuff.
Yeah, I went to the dentist, I got my eyes checked, like I was on fire. And but what you should know, because you probably know this, and I'm sure everyone knows this, but when you go for your annuals and you go for your physical and you're a woman, they check your breasts. So I had 2 checks the same week, and neither one of them flagged that there was any sort of issue. Then when I went back to one of the doctors and said, hey, what's going on with this? That doctor said, I'm not really worried about it, but if you want a mammogram and an MRI, I'll write you a prescription. So there were like 3 different times I could have been like, okay, no big deal. But I wasn't. I actually was like, yes, let's take that. Was it a
lump? Was there something inflamed? Did it not feel right?
I felt totally fine. There was just a little calcification thing that just seemed different that came and went, different time of the month. It just was more visible, and then it wasn't.
Right.
Nothing super alarming. Could have easily just been like overlooked. I could have gone on with my life and not thought twice and not gone back to the doctor for a year.
Well, you're not hypochondriacal. You're not neurotic. Like, what inspired you to be more inquisitive in that moment? Just instinct or gut feeling or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something that wasn't there, but then it went away, and then it came back. And so it actually took me, by the time from when I first realized it was there to when I went back to the doctor, it was about 2 months. And at that point, nothing was different, but it wasn't a top priority because, I'm thinking, I just went to 2 doctors, 2 really good doctors. Like, right. I'm not neurotic. So, but it helps, you go and you have your checks and you take what they're saying that it's true. I could have done that. I could have not gone back. And so I think that's what, when I'm talking about being your own advocate, I think it's trusting your gut instinct, even if a professional is maybe telling you something else. It's asking questions. It's taking that extra effort. Like, well, maybe I should just make the appointment and go back and just double check that this is fine. It doesn't mean it has to be reactive and put in like countering what the professional's saying. It just kind of like listen to yourself and just don't be afraid to speak up.
Back with our guest after the break.
Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quest to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
Through the lens of I'm not a customer of the cancer universe to now I am a customer of the cancer universe, the perceptions of what we've been fed, the St. Jude commercials, the pink ribbon commercials, the blah, blah, blah. And now you're on the other side of that. You come from branding, innovation, agency, creative services background, as do I. I mean, I entered that career after I had cancer, so I had a different lens on what was being brought to the market. But this country's been fed with fear and bald kids and this and that and prevention and risk and, blah, blah, blah. We become a hypochondriacal society by nature of just existing. What has been your, if any, kind of like triggerable aha moments about like, that's full of shit, this is okay?
Well, okay. So first I should say this. I don't know that any of it's full of shit because I only know my own experience. And I think that a lot of the things that didn't resonate for me and with me help a lot of people. So I am not going to say that they're negative or that there's anything wrong with it. It's just for me, like you said, I wasn't part of the cancer world. I really wasn't part of it. Like I didn't have that. I had one family member and I was kind of not super connected to that experience when that happened. And so it was not something that was really ingrained in my lifestyle until it happened, when then I was introduced to more people who were my age and female and diagnosed within a month of when I was. And it just became a bigger thing. So I think for a lot of people, depending on where you are and what your experience is, some of those things might help. So specifically, just to unpack your question a little bit, you're talking about the flyers and the commercials and the pink and the ribbons. And
right.
Yeah. So it was super interesting for me to have breast cancer during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, because in the past, go Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Awesome. Love it. In fact, sidebar, when I was in 7th grade, Bath and Body Works was doing a partnership with a breast cancer organization, and they were selling a bracelet that had a little ribbon in support of breast cancer awareness. I don't know why. I didn't know anyone with breast cancer. I felt really compelled to support this, and I bought the bracelet and I wore it for like 2 years. Weird.
Okay.
Anyway.
You're the one. Okay, great.
But anyway, so my point was I was totally and fully in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and all the things that went along with it. Like when you fly on certain airlines, they partner with a pink lemonade company.
Right.
And it's like, wait, what?
Or the pink M&Ms or
you're
the
giving
pink
everyone
this.
sugar.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's this huge disconnect between awareness and actually what makes sense. But all that to say, I felt a huge disconnect. I was going through it and feeling good. Like, I mean, I saw you during my treatment. Like I felt pretty good. Like I'm very grateful for my experience, but I'm going through treatment, actively through treatment during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm not even feeling a connection. I'm checking out at Duane Reade and I'm like, look at this, like trifold.
Right.
With this woman who...
It doesn't speak to you.
Well,
It doesn't mean anything to you.
You know, the thing is, all of these people who are going through treatment, who have cancer, any kind of cancer, were they all bald for their whole life? Or are they just bald for like 3 months?
Or for the photo op.
Or but that photo op within a very small period of time within their life.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that it's like this shock value that's happening.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why, because I'm not sure what the effect is. And this is my like strategic mind coming into play here.
It's fear and pity. I'll tell you exactly. It's fear and pity to give guilt. It's like a Sarah McLachlan Dying Pets commercial.
Oh my God, the worst.
Literally.
I don't even want to talk about
No,
that.
I'm serious. Like that is the metaphor I've been using, that and your sentiments are in direct alignment with younger women with breast cancer. Because yes, breast cancer is 94% of the time over the age of 65, and women under 45 are always the ones being trotted out as the token bald breast cancer people to raise money for breast cancer. So pink is kind of a big middle finger to younger women who don't get the attention they deserve because cancer in younger women has different needs and different support mechanisms and even different medicines sometimes.
Well, so you know that I'm in a master's program, a law school master's.
Because you're an underachiever.
Right. But I'm also like not a lawyer, but I'm your favorite fake lawyer. So I can argue both sides of anything.
Yes.
So I can understand the value in having one color that represents a group because people need community.
Yes.
I get that. For me, I never wear pink. I live in New York. I'm wearing black now. You know, it's like
very appropriate.
For me, I didn't want to ring a bell. When I finished treatment, I took a bunch of friends and we went to sushi.
Right.
Because you can't have sushi while you're on chemo, by the way. So that was devastating. It's like,
the trials and tribulations.
trading pink ribbons and, you know, the bells for sushi and black. And that's just me. And that's what made me feel comfortable because for me, I was having this foundational break happen. And so I wanted to maintain as much of my normal life and my normalcy as possible. And for me, that's my norm. I'm not going to all of a sudden wear pink. However, I will say, because I can argue both sides, I know people who that really supported them and they felt empowered and they felt happy to, you know, rock a stage with their head shaved, you know? And so it's not for me to in any way pass judgment or anything. I think do it however it works for you because this shit is hard. So just do whatever works for you.
Yeah, I have very strong opinions. As you know, and as my listeners know, I've been ranting about stuff.
You do?
Yeah, who do?
Oh.
Hi, I'm Matt. Have we met? Exactly.
Wait, does the audience know when you said you were Kramer before?
I'm definitely George Costanza. I'm not as derpy as him, but yes, I feel that, you know, I don't like the idea of exploitation and tokenism.
Right.
In general, in any socioeconomic or anthropologic or commercial consumer, whatever. I don't like tokenism. I also remember when Livestrong came out, everything was yellow, but they were egalitarian and tumor agnostic. They didn't care what you had. It was all about living strong. And
Which is great.
It was a phenomenal brand experience for people to feel like we were all in this together. It served a great purpose. And pink has always been stigmatized because you either love it or you hate it. And either way, they're leaning into it even more because it raises money. And then every time a company decides that this airplane is becoming pink or this M&M is becoming pink or this blender is becoming pink, they're duping the world into believing that by buying a pink blender, it actually helps a person.
Well, and
which
that
goes back to
in
your argument over awareness versus action.
Well. So if they're doing brand partnerships and a portion of the proceeds go to a foundation that does, you know much more about that than I do, but it is indirectly supporting people. And so if people want to support in honor of someone they love or anything like that, I'm fine with that. I think for me, while I didn't want to wear pink, it's less about that it is pink. Although now I see even your water bottle, I'm like, oh, a breast cancer water bottle.
But it's really not. It just happens to be like a maroonish, magenta-ish,
that's not
fuchsia-ish
maroon.
thing. I don't know. I'm colorblind too, so it was handed to me.
You just listed 3 colors that are completely different.
That's why I colorblind. Is that really pink? I have no idea.
It's pink. Yes.
Guilty as charged.
It is pink.
Oh dear.
But my point being, I think the thing that was interesting, and even while I was going through this, I thought about this. Foundation, organization. I'm your target demo before I'm diagnosed, right? Like, give us money, you know, you're a certain age within a certain range. I'm probably their target demo to an extent. Then I get breast cancer. I'm definitely not the target demo, or
Nope.
maybe I am, but at no point. And then now I don't have it. I'm on the other side. And so it's like at no point was I feeling connected to this campaign. So maybe it's just me or it's this sensationalism shock value.
I will just reaffirm that you're not alone being a young adult with breast cancer. This is more common as a sentiment than you think about not realizing you are the outlier until you're the outlier. You're an outlier statistically as only one of 6% of breast cancer under 45, but you're also an outlier because of the marketing never actually does anything to help young women with breast cancer. And my final rant about this, though, on cause marketing, the industry writ large, the patient advocate community writ large, took on the shaming of companies that turned products pink and didn't explicitly say where their dollars were going. Because the language was made very nebulous intentionally, where a portion of the proceeds support breast cancer research. What portion? Because zero is a portion, right? And breast cancer research are just 3 words that mean nothing. So the scrutiny over what cause marketing in pink took advantage of for consumer goodwill, there's a lot less of that now because they were all just blatantly ripping off consumers and keeping 99% of the proceeds gets into our bank account, and 1%, which is still a portion, goes to this group, and they don't need $10,000. They need $20 million. So that's been a high horse I've been on for a while now, with largely mostly young adult cancer groups, metastatic cancer groups, LGBT cancer groups in breast cancer. So I love that we can banter about this because I see like your brain is on fire learning that this is the truth. And I'm heartened, not disheartened, heartened that you did have, I would say almost an expected reaction to being in the pink bubble and not necessarily identifying with it.
Yeah. But to say that, you know, there are people who are connected to it. So what?
Not taking that away from anyone.
I'm just saying.
You're not saying, you're just saying.
I'm just saying. But what I wish Breast Cancer Awareness Month or any awareness was about was actually like, hey guys, actually this thing that we put in your face nonstop that you totally are aware that it exists, we're actually going to tell you about it. And hey, maybe that thing that you think is so uncommon might happen to you and likely will happen to someone you know. Why don't we teach you about how to prevent it, or just education? Because, you know, I don't remember exactly what the percentage or statistic you said, under 40.
Yeah, young adult cancer is 6% of all cancers, but breast cancer under 40 is about 4% of all breast cancers.
Well, I'll tell you this. I didn't know anyone my age before I was diagnosed, and it seems like it is very common. And
I know.
Because a friend connected me with a friend, and then another friend, and then now my other friend's girlfriend, and it's just kind of like, what's happening? And we're well under 40, 33, 34,
Right.
35. I mean, this is like 5 years out from when the suggested mammograms are.
We call that the cancer magnet. It's like when you buy a Volvo and then you only see Volvos on the highway.
Actually, that's not called that, but
No, that's what we call it. You just become a magnet for people to come to you.
it actually has a name. I can't remember what it is.
Well, in Volvo land, it has a name in advertising, but in cancer land, you join a club and then people just find you somehow in the perfect sense. And yeah, you're in New York. And again, I would see that as progress because 20 years ago, there was no way to find anybody.
Well, I think it's because people are having more open conversations.
Yes.
It's less stigmatized.
Hell yes.
Because it's like people are willing to support. A friend of mine was like, hey, like my other friend was just diagnosed, someone who lives in LA, so other side of the country. And then we connected and we started, a little group of 4 of us who were all diagnosed around the same time. The girl I was connected to knew all of us. And, it was just really interesting that we were all diagnosed around the same time. And, we've all had very different journeys. And actually we found out last week that one of the girls actually had passed away, which is really sad. But,
that's very
it's like
sad reality.
everyone I've been connected with, every situation has been different. Every treatment plan, somehow it's nuanced. Like, and tailored specifically to you. Like everything has been different to different people.
It really should be. This also is progress because 20 years ago, which is really important to remember that things happened 20 years ago in cancer, and it really was a one-size-fits-all no matter what you had. Very hard to distinguish the individuality against the biology. And today, yes, there are very different platforms and ecosystems and communities and guidelines that govern the way that cancer, they call it, consumer journey mapping, right? You know that term probably. Yeah. So they're now talking about patient journey mapping. That's their own new jargon now, but it really does start to conflate quality of life with quality of care and treatment. And that is a wonderful dogma to kind of own as a byproduct of advocacy for 30 years. So it's good to hear you see that and hear that and be that, because again, I want to make sure people know we've come pretty damn far in 30 years, and the ebb tide of where we need to go is now being revealed. So one more question.
Sure.
You wrote in this incredible article that we'll link to, maybe this is a hint on mortality or self-realization or self-awareness.
Oh boy, what'd I say?
Well, you said everything is temporary, which is, quite philosophical. And then what happens then? I don't know. I don't know what happens. I haven't gotten to that point yet. What did you mean?
Was that me just then?
I'm quoting you.
But with the inflections like that.
I have to make it dramatic. I wouldn't be me if I didn't make it theatrical.
Well, what happens next?
What happens
next week?
Next week. Yeah. Stay tuned, true believers.
I mean, I did work at a soap opera, so there is an element of drama.
You have a phenomenal backstory that we haven't even dug into right now.
I think just for context for the listeners, that quote was in an article or an interview rather, that I had with a journalist. So just for context, because we didn't mention that.
Context?
We didn't mention that part. But here's what I thought, because I do actually remember saying that. I think that everything is temporary, and that at that point, so that interview was...
You were in the thick of it.
No, I wasn't in the thick of it.
Were you out of it already?
No, I wasn't out of it.
Were you in it?
I was in it, but I was at like the beginning part of it. It was probably either end of September, very early October. I think it was September, because the whole point was this was going to be slated for our favorite month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I was pretty early on. I had probably at that point, I was like maybe less than 2 months in. I don't know. I had done a couple rounds of chemo. I had already done fertility preservation. I wasn't in the thick of it, but I was like almost halfway through. Mm-hmm. And, a lot was still unknown. Like I didn't know what was happen when I moved from the AC chemo to the T chemo. Like, am I going to react different? I'm feeling good now. I feel great. I feel energized, like feeling pretty good. Maybe I won't have that reaction with the next one. I don't know what it's like when I have the surgery in January. I don't know, will all of this be effective? There was so much unknown that, I think it was just me being really honest that like, I know this moment and I don't know the future. And so I'm just going to live in this moment.
I feel we should close out with the song Only for Now from Avenue Q.
Oh boy.
That's a total throwback. Where you'll find the little clip and play Only for Now, Only for Now. That's really how you judge
I love Avenue
mortality.
Q.
One of the best shows ever. To Avenue Q, Rebecca Batterman.
Oh man, come back, revival,
yeah,
please.
I'm telling you.
2022.
We're going to do more of these. I like this unscripted banter conversation. I'd love to have you back to talk about the word prevention.
Oh, are we done?
We are done.
Talking to you is a breeze.
It was great. So if you're still listening to this episode, please let me know if you like this type of show in addition to the other shows that I've done, because they have to be real. They have to be unfiltered. They have to be unscripted. And I believe this is what people want to hear from my program. So Rebecca Batterman, thank you so much.
We'll
see you back here next time.
Sounds good. See you soon.
That's all for today, folks. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and tell all your friends to listen. Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a product of Offscript Media. Our executive producer is Matthew Zachary. Our senior producers are Jen Horangeff and Andrew McDowell. Darren Tunn is our production intern. It is recorded, mixed, and edited by Matthew Zachary. Our theme music is by the Mike Van Allen Quintet and by Mara. For advertising and media inquiries, email media@offscript.com. Hit us up at contact@offscript.com to share comments, feedback, and make guest recommendations. For more information, visit offscript.com.